Greetings, friends. My name is Amy Ezel, and I am the Director of Communications here at the Arkansas Conference for the United Methodist Church. We have today with us Bishop Laura Merrill. We have assistant to the bishop, as well as our Director of Connectional Ministries, Reverend Jim Polk. And we have Sherry Matthews, who is our conference coordinator for Volunteers in Mission, as well as Disaster Response Ministries. Today, we're going to be having a conversation to better understand how our Arkansas Conference Disaster Response Ministry works along with the UMCOR national and international ministries, and kind of how we work together. So we're going to jump on into some conversation. Thank you all for being here today.
Glad to be here.
Good. Thank you, Bishop Merrill. You are no stranger to disaster in communities. Can you open us and share how UMCOR and conference disaster teams work together to respond to individuals and communities in need?
Sure. So just a reminder that UMCOR stands for United Methodist Committee on Relief. UMCOR is a global United Methodist agency that responds both in times of natural disasters as well as times of refugee ministries in cases of war, and all over the globe. So it's a very active, very highly respected arm of our denomination, and it's supported by this year, I think we've moved to a Sunday offering called UMCOR Sunday, but it used to be called the One Great Hour of Sharing, and that's where the administrative costs are covered for UMCOR. But the donations that are given to that group go all over the world for a variety of kinds of outreach. As a part of that ministry that's so broad-based, they are really experts in handling disasters. One of the things that I know you've said, Amy, numerous times just in the past couple of days, and which is very true, is that we are often the last ones on the ground. And anyone who has gone through a natural disaster of any sort knows that the initial flurry when you're on the news takes about 3 weeks, and then you're on your own. Sometimes for 3 years. It can take a very long time, and we are there. We are there along with other agencies, Red Cross and statewide agencies. And so that's that kind of big picture expertise, the training that comes to the local level, and the partnership with grants and the partnership with guidance around FEMA. That is what the general level provides for us at the local level. Then teams and people like Sherry, who do this amazing work on the ground of organizing, training, early response teams, chainsaw teams, whoever they are, people who are helping hands-on in folks' homes and places that have suffered damage. Also, the local level is where we gather a lot of resources. We gather flood buckets and kits for different purposes for people who are finding themselves displaced. Local folks do that stuff. And then, of course, the UMCOR connection provides us with more of that if we need more than what we have on hand locally. And that's, flood buckets that were assembled in Wisconsin or Montana could get sent to Arkansas. And that's a beautiful part of our connection as well. So it's a really lovely way to just have as many resources going in different directions and helping people on the ground as possible. And that some of the donations that y'all have made in Arkansas have helped people in other places as well. So it's a beautiful kind of as we've been calling it, an ecosystem of help and response.
Indeed. Yeah. Thank you.
There's one other thing that UMCOR provides besides supplies, and that is volunteers. They bring in people from other states for us if it's needed. So we're never alone. So that's the connectional part that is great.
That's right. And I could say too that I've already heard from both bishops and response coordinators in everywhere from Oklahoma to Great Plains, Missouri, Tennessee, who's now they've suffered their own damage. Louisiana, places in Texas, there are folks reaching out, and bishops who have called from all over the country. So, we really are connected and can call on our friends when we need to.
Absolutely. Jim, I have a question for you. As the Director of Connectional Ministries, can you share a little bit about the purpose and the mission of the Arkansas Conference Disaster Response Team?
Sure, and that's a great question. Bishop Merrill shared a lot just now about UMCOR and kind of the bigger picture, the connectional picture, the resources that are available all over. But in some of the trainings that I've been to, they have stressed that we are UMCOR. We are UMCOR. So when we talk about the disaster response team, we're basically taking the same kind of work that you just heard of at UMCOR, but we're applying it at the local level. This is the work of our annual conference. When a disaster hits in Arkansas, that's often tornadoes and floods. Those seem to be the two main ones. The first response of UMCOR is always local. It's going to be from our conference. We one of the most important functions of the disaster response team that we have that Sherry is heading is to do training, and that's done all the time. We are always preparing for the next disaster that comes. We're always looking for volunteers. Sherry, you might want to share in a little bit about the importance of the volunteers to us. But the disaster response team in what they call the blue sky days, when everything is beautiful and there are no disasters going on, that's the time to prepare. They have trainings for local teams, and when a disaster strikes, like it just did in Arkansas, it's those teams that are ready to go. So almost immediately, our disaster response team was getting set, preparing on the ground, doing damage assessments, looking for places that can host disaster response teams. Will be coming in, getting in touch with the leaders that were already in place. We've got a disaster hub that is filled, I'm told, to the brim with flood buckets and cleaning kits and other supplies that came primarily from this last gathering. We've got the trailers ready to go out. We are already reaching out in Wynne, Arkansas, as well as the metro area here in the central Arkansas. So our work is primarily focused on Arkansas, and it's due to this amazing team of volunteers that come. UMCOR itself doesn't have that many paid personnel. They have knowledge, they have trainers, they have some resources, but we are UMCOR when it hits here in Arkansas. Sherry, you can share more, but I want to say how grateful I am to the work of all the volunteers in our conference who have gotten the training, and all those who have not gotten training but are still going to be volunteering. We are UMCOR.
Yes, Jim, I totally agree with you. The volunteers are very important, and the people in the pews are also volunteers. They may not realize it, but they are. And this last gathering that you just mentioned was phenomenal. I was so impressed with the people of United Methodist Churches of Arkansas.
So Sherry, talking to you, Jim mentioned a couple of things. Tell me a little bit about how the conference initiates disaster response, and if you don't mind, touch a little bit on the blue sky time that Jim mentioned.
Yes, Amy, the blue sky time is basically the time that we spend to get ready for the disaster. whether it be organizing our hub, which is our centrally located facility that houses all of our stuff, and or it could be during training. It could be having team building exercises. We could be just building ramps for people that are in need. We're always out there trying to find some way to help others. That's what our blue sky time is. So
Gotcha. I know y'all spend a lot of time keeping the vehicles maintenance ready to go, having all the supplies organized, ready to go as well, and we're grateful. Another question for you, Sherry. In reference to the cleaning buckets that y'all have mentioned, can you walk me through how our local disaster response teams use these cleaning buckets that people have donated? Can you kind of walk me through how you get them from where they're being stored to places where people are in need after a disaster?
yes, Amy, I can. After a disaster has happened, we go out there, our volunteers go to the hub and we load up all of the buckets that we can possibly hold. And then we take them out to either distribution centers or we take them to the local churches. And then we also have times when our volunteers are out there just driving the neighborhoods that have been affected, and they have these supplies in their vehicle. This gives us an opportunity to work one-on-one with the survivors that are out there and show them that God's love is always there.
Thank you. You know, one more question about the buckets. What if we ever run low? What if we are kind of like where we are now? We are just slammed by tornadoes, and we run out of flood buckets and cleaning buckets that we have on hand. What happens then?
First off, we're not going to run out. I've made sure that we have somebody watching them. And when we get to where it's our half mark on our supply, we will contact UMCOR, and they have 5 hubs or locations to where they store all this stuff, and they can send the 18-wheelers to us with it. So that way we won't run out.
Great. Thank you. Bishop, you have visited some areas affected by the recent tornadoes in Pulaski County and in Wynne. What would you like for people to know maybe about the pastors and the congregations in these areas whose churches and homes have been damaged?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is as you would expect. There is a lot of grief, of course, and of course we were there, and I was so glad to ride with Sherry and with you here in Little Rock, and then to go to Wynne on Sunday. There's grief, there's shock, because especially those, I was there in both places where folk were seeing the facility, the church facility, for the first time. And so people love their church, and we know the little Sunday school song that says the church is not the building, the church is the people. And we know that's true. And yet these places are where we have married and buried and learned the faith. And some folk who are older than I am have lived there all their lives and learned the songs of Jesus in that place. So there's a lot of affection for the place, and a lot of grief when you think that either it's just been hit, or that, you know, something different might end up standing there as a result. And so that's hard. And yet at the same time, woven into that, and especially with the pastors I met with, you know, there's just this clear understanding that they're clear quickly. The task is going to be for us to hang together, for us to be the church to one another and to the people around us, and that this is not going to change who we are. I said earlier today, someone asking about this, that truly nothing is lost in the economy of God, and that people's affection for their church, people's heritage that they have built and stood upon and received from those who went before them, none of that gets lost. And even though the building might not be there, that heritage remains. And who we are, that this is a time when we find out that we are the church. And so I really found both of those sentiments existing parallel to each other concurrently. And I trust they're going to be okay, and we're going to be okay, in part because we're going to take care of each other, and we're going to make sure that that's the case. So in the end, it's grief, producing, and lots. I will say the third thing is concern for neighbors who don't have what they need, neighbors who maybe don't have insurance or whose business was affected, and that means their livelihood was, so there's lots of concern for others as well. That'd be the third thing that I heard. And so we know what our job is, so we're gonna be about it and take care of each other in the process.
Yesterday, I had a chance to go to Wynn and in the morning and worship with them at their Palm Sunday service on the parking lot. And one of the things they were told was that on Palm Sunday, Jesus began a difficult path forward, but he was determined to go. And the pastor, Matt Carter, of a church that whose building has practically been destroyed, probably was. He said something that was profound to me that I think ties in with what you were saying and the importance and work of UMCOR. He said, today we're here to pick up pieces at our church. We're going to protect what we know and what we love so that tomorrow we can go into the community, knowing that we've done what we had to do to protect ourselves. But he said, we're doing that today so that tomorrow the community will see us. And then he handed each person a palm branch, at least each family, and said, normally we would put this on the altar, but today I want you to take these home. And throughout this week, I want you to let that palm branch remind you that we are on a difficult path, but we are on a path with God, and we are to go into the community. I think every disaster response volunteer, every team, every person who helps out in any way, everyone who sends money, everyone who prepares food, everyone who does anything, we need to remember we are being the church. We are having the opportunity to go into the community at the hands and feet of Christ. What I heard at Wynn is something that's going to stick with me. It's the heart of what it means to be a Christian, heart of what it means to be part of the church. It's something I'm excited about, that we as an Arkansas Conference have a chance to participate in.
That's beautiful, Jim. Yeah, thank you. Giving Jesus a chance to shine through us.
Absolutely.
For sure. Thank you so much. Well, in response to what you just shared, I have a question about on our website, and social media and everywhere, we have made an opportunity for people to be able to donate funds to support our Arkansas United Methodist Volunteers in Mission and Disaster Response Ministry teams and their work. But also on that donation is a place to donate to UMCOR as well. Can you help us understand why if we are UMCOR, but why there are two different ways to give? Can you better explain, help us understand that?
Sure. Let me start with UMCOR itself.
Okay.
We just today sent in a request for something called a solidarity grant. We sent it to UMCOR, and I feel confident we will receive it. It will be an initial grant of perhaps up to $10,000 that helps us it just gives us some immediate funds to meet needs. That money came from donations wide, far and wide, over time to UMCOR directly. We have found, and I'm confident that at some point, because of the scope of the task in front of us, we'll be asking more help in the future from UMCOR. So money they receive directly to them really is money that they can use wherever the need is. But there are those times when, as now, when we have immediate needs ourselves. So the money that is sent to the Arkansas Disaster Response is going to go 100% for the work in our conference. It's going to meet these immediate needs. If at some point we receive more than we needed, that will still be held for future events. There will be another tornado. There will be a flood. There will be an ice storm. There will be a disaster. So those funds that go to that first Arkansas Disaster Response are specifically to help us. Both funds are important. And in fact, both, I'm confident, are going to be used in our disaster response. The important thing, though, the distinction is that one stays locally. It gives us some direct control on how that's going to be used. Money that can be given throughout the year when we don't have kind of those blue sky days again.
Right.
We have a chance to support UMCOR. And that may go to help the tornadoes in Mississippi. That may go to help tornadoes in Tennessee and Kentucky or Arkansas. It goes where the needs are.
Great, thank you. Your explanation has been very helpful to for me, for sure. I want to ask Sherry, is there anything that you would like to share before we close? Is there anything that I missed asking you that you'd like to add?
I would just like to add that the supplies and the money are great, but it's the volunteers that we have in our Methodist Church that makes all the difference, because as been said before, we couldn't do this without you.
Right. Exactly. Thank you. Bishop Merrill, is there any last words that you would like to share with us?
Well, I'll just say that again, I haven't been here long, but I'm very proud of this annual conference. I'm proud of us as a church and hopeful. I love hearing the story from Wynn, and that, the reason to take care of the church is in order for the church to be able to be in relationship and care and ministry with the community. And so I'm very grateful for the heritage of UMCOR and of local disaster response, where that is what we do. That is what we do. And I know that that's who we will be in this moment as well. So I'm great. It's terrible time. And so I'm not grateful for that, but I'm grateful for who we are in the midst of this trouble, and who we're going to be. That's the best of all. And the best of all is that God is with us. So
thank you so much. Thank you all very much for joining in this conversation tonight. For those of you viewing, please, for more information, you can follow our ARUMC Facebook page. You can follow the Volunteers in Mission and Disaster Response Facebook group, and always you can check out the arumc.org, our conference website, that will have daily updates, and sometimes more than daily updates when there is a disaster. We thank you again. I reiterate that United Methodists are we're the last ones to leave. We are with our people, and we are the last ones to leave. So thank you all so much. Grateful for each of you.
Thank you, Amy, for having us.
Amen. Thanks.